Good morning. It's a brand new day and a brand new year, 2024. I was talking with somebody earlier before 2024 saying, did you ever think 2024 would come? And they said, no, I never imagined it. So for us that are a bit older, 2024 just seems so wild to be in the middle.
Was their comment, not in a million years?
Yeah.
Which actually was.
Yeah, it was somebody older than me, so, you know.
Or was it, I thought we would have cooler stuff by now, because
That's true.
I remember those books looking ahead to the, 2020s, and there
Well-
should be flying cars, and
Well-
I should have a robot doing my dishes every night, right?
This is interesting conversation because on Sunday we talked about, do I ever change? And we're talking about, do things ever change? And how do they change differently than we expect? Because you're right. What was Back to the Future? They were anticipating flying trains and flying cars and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But they didn't anticipate holding the whole world in your hand, access to, anything, anywhere.
I
right?
thought 2001: A Space Odyssey. What year did that movie come out in? I thought they had tablets in it. Did they not have computer tablets? And that came out in the 70s something.
Huh.
I just remember when Apple launched their iPad, people were like, they ripped that off of that movie.
Oh, yeah.
And stuff. So, but yeah, you're absolutely right.
So there are
it would be actually something we would hold, and then a digital picture would pop up and we would talk to people.
Okay, yeah. So that's still to come, probably. I mean, I heard something about a hologram meeting or something.
But maybe the difference is in some of those movies versus what we have now is the whole point, well, maybe I think, but I believe the whole point behind the phone is interconnectivity, right? The internet is connecting us and our world together, either relationally or technologically or information or something like that, right? It's about that connection. It's not necessarily just about the device. Whereas in those movies, it was hey, look at this cool thing.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah. That is interesting, though, the predictions made versus what is actually here, right? We just know we can't tell the future.
But to get to your question of, do you ever change?
Yeah.
That sounds like something I ask my son every night when he's supposed to be getting his clothes changed. It's like, isn't that what you were just in today? No.
Well,
my underwear's different.
It's so interesting how language can be interpreted, right? Do I ever change? There was a video we showed on Sunday where this husband and a wife, they're coming up to New Year's, and she said, do I ever change? I just feel like this is going to be another year where I'm the same as I've always been. And he's like, oh yeah, you cut your hair. She's like, come on. And so we're talking about change, right, and character. And so I think that's a good question for us to ponder a little bit. Do I ever change? I mean, the passages that we looked at were saying that when we trust Jesus, he's at work changing us. So it is good to reflect, how have I seen him changing me? How have I seen him working over the past year, 2 years, 5 years, whatever it is, right? So what are some things you notice about yourself? I'll go while you're thinking, because you got to have time to think about it. But as I've reflected over my life over the past 2, 5, 10 years, I really have seen God giving me some of the character qualities that we looked at in the fall in deeper measure. Not to say I'm anywhere near where I want to be, but just a deep love and compassion for people. I've grown in that. God has grown me in that. And I see that in ways that I even treat my family, in the ways I respond when I see someone that my first judgment is towards, would have been more negative. I catch myself and realize this is someone God loves. So I've seen that. I've seen him grow in me in that. I've seen him grow me in my patience, and patience, especially on the road. I've calmed down, and I've compared to 10 years ago, my first reaction isn't to think somebody's against me when I get caught off. So those are some of the things that I see. This isn't going to be a comprehensive list, but what are some of the things you guys are noticing about how God has changed you?
Can I just point out, this is such a beautiful conversation to have without our wives in the room.
Yeah, that's a good point. They might change.
Because I can say it's X, Y, or Z, and she'll be like,
yeah.
have some
Which is a good point.
follow-up thoughts.
When we are thinking about this stuff, it is good to talk about someone who knows us to say, I'm seeing this, what are you seeing? But what do you see?
Sure, all of the above. Definitely I can say that my compassion and love for people has grown over the years. That goes hand in hand, though, with praying, God, help me grow in love and compassion for the people that you have love and compassion for, which, newsflash is everybody. It's not like, and so that's part of it. But yeah, I mean, there's so many ways he uses that, and I guess that's more where one of the things that I've been thinking of in the last minute of. Yes, he uses our spouses, he uses our churches, he uses our kids, who probably that's who's calling me right now. One of the things I think is helpful to understand, or at least one of the things I try and reflect on in all of that is not just the ways God used, enacts change, right? If I just sit back and pray, okay, God, change me, and then expect it to happen, usually it requires work. Like it's a lot less spiritual necessarily as just, building relationships with people who otherwise I might not have a relationship with, right? Or children or neighbors, and actually when there's a block party or something, going out and meeting some neighbors and being open to things like that. Those are often the ways and that God, I think, enacts change in my life. It's not, of course, it begins with prayer, right? God, change me, but then being aware of how he does that, right? Through, more often than not, people and relationships. And so if I think I can just sit in a little closet for 24 hours a day and I'm going to come out of that changed, it's not really the way I've noticed God do it in my life.
No, it's a good reminder.
And so I think there's things that happen every day where I can be open to God using them to change me for the better and be more like Jesus, or I can resist them and be closed off to them, and then there will be no change. And so, or maybe more often than not, because the Bible talks about a lot of people who had a hardness of heart, right? Probably I'm not sure that anyone just stays still, right? But to decay is to change in a different direction towards a hardness.
I feel like that's an important reminder to say, because this video talks about change, but what if the husband would have responded with, she says, have I changed? And he said, yeah, you've actually changed a lot. Because that could be a positive or a negative, right? That could be. So I think even using the word changes is good, but even to say, have I grown? Have I grown closer towards God?
Matured.
Have I grown in my relationship with others? Have I matured? Right? Or have I changed because if somebody else says to me, "Man, you've changed," right? That's not always a good thing. Because even as I think about it, there's times over the last year that I've changed, some positive and some negative, right? And I can think about some of those ways that maybe, okay, I've possibly grown in this area. My wife or my family might disagree, but I feel like I have, there's places where I might have kind of either stayed the same or whatever, and other people have said, you've changed in that, you've actually grown, right? So, there's that whole sense of understanding, okay, the larger purpose of what we're trying to do is not necessarily change. It's like you're saying, Chris, it's actually to grow and to grow in the right ways, right? To look at that. You used the metaphor of, do you want to be an oak tree or do you want to be a vegetable or a squash or a mushroom, whatever it is, right? Like, do you want to grow overnight or do you want to grow over a long period of time? And that's a growth in maturity and positive change that God has planned for that person to grow. But if that oak tree was, changing but not growing, right? That's a whole different thing as well too. And so to say, okay, God, what's your plan and purpose for me? May I grow in those things as well too. I think that's an important reminder in all of this, because I very clearly have grown poorly in some areas as well too, right? And that's kind of I feel like what everybody kind of focuses in on in January is, okay, what are all the bad habits that I've learned? How can I try and drop those now and get back on track? But yet, is that really where God is wanting me to grow and go? Right?
Which is why prayer, you reminded us, and we ended the sermon that way. Prayer is so vital. I'm reminded of a book I read and took people through a number of years ago called Experiencing God. I don't know if you guys have heard of this, but
Some experience
the
with
main idea is that you look for what God is doing, and I would say prayerfully ask what God is doing, and then join Him in that. So like when you saw a block party, hey, God, I'm going to go here. Show me why I'm here. But yeah, this idea of we walk step in step again. It's back to what we talked about in the fall, walking hand in hand with the Spirit. We don't just sit there in a closet, like you so well said, and expect to grow. We ask Him, then we step out, and then He grows us, and we walk. So. Yeah, but all that is just to say that God is at work in us, and He's waiting our response. And our response is, Lord, lead me. And wherever you show, I will go. And I'm going to step out into this day and interact. And I'm going to be involved. And as I do, I will ask for your guidance and trust that you will guide me. So, yeah, I don't know. Any last?
I can't not get this song out of my head this whole time we're having this conversation, because it's a camp song, Little by Little.
Huh?
Yeah, you never heard
I don't know that.
Little by little, every day, little by little, every way, my Jesus is changing me.
Yeah.
He's changing me since I made a turnabout face. I have grown in His grace. My Jesus is changing me.
That's good.
It's a good one. It goes on to...
Yeah.
It's very campy.
Huh.
It is very campy. And then, of course, because it's camp, it's like, okay, now we're going to sing it faster.
Yeah.
Now we're going to sing it faster.
It's great.
But it helped me memorize it, so it was
sure
there.
did. Yeah, that's great. Well, that's looking back, and I hope you do take some time to reflect on some of those passages we looked at, and on how you've been in this walk, in this journey with the Lord. How have you worked with Him? How has He changed you? And how have you maybe worked against Him? And how might that need to be a change, an about face, as your song says, in your heart? So, take some time to ponder that on your own with a trusted friend, loved one. Looking forward, we are in January. It's the first Sunday of January on Sunday. And so we will be celebrating communion. So we can look forward to that. And then the following Sunday, you want to tell us a little bit about what's happening the following Sunday?
Yeah, so we're trying to purpose to be together once a month and to gather people together, and whether that's soup or whether that's something else. But this month we're going to gather around some soup. So January 14th, right after the service, we'll finish our service and we'll head into the fellowship room. And we have a good amount of people who have already signed up for making soup, but even if there's a couple of people that want to help out, or you're welcome to make buns, or we would go buy them or something, we would appreciate some help with that. You can come and talk to me, hopefully before Sunday. I'd appreciate that. And then we just kind of hang out, and we talk about in the fellowship committee, it's not just about the meal, right? Like sometimes we focus, we gotta focus on the soup. No, it's about setting the table so that then you can look across the table from somebody and say, hey, how are you doing? How's your new year? What's God doing in you? How's life? How's the kids, right? And that sense of growth and community, and like we do this together. We grow in this together. So that's our purpose on January 14th, right after the service.
Awesome.
And then coming up in the next few weeks, probably the end of January, early February, we haven't nailed down a date yet, but our annual general meeting will be coming up. So we can be praying towards that. Look for that date so that you can plan to be a part of that. When we look at the annual general meeting, we also welcome in new members, and we have some new members coming in. And if you want to be a part of those new members, we'd have to know fairly soon, because we also have to have a conversation with you to talk to you a little bit about your story, your testimony, and then have it ready to present to the congregation at the annual general meeting. So if you are wanting to think about membership, let us know soon, and we will talk to you about that. But I think that's about all that we can let you know about, or have ready to let you know about now. But we are excited about 2024 and what God has in mind for us. And so I would just ask you to continue praying for not only yourself, that God would be growing and maturing you, but that you would be praying for us as a congregation, as a part of God's church here locally, and what his role is for us in West Kelowna, with each other, how he wants us to go about that. These are all things that we need to continually be praying about, because he leads and guides as we pray and as we step into as we respond to what he shows us. So thank you for your prayers. Thank you for your involvement. And we look forward to seeing you on Sunday and celebrating communion together.